feel like VR is a lot like a dog. I'm super excited when my friends get one, but I would have no clue where to put it in my own home. Guys, before we get started, make sure to like this video to make sure it gets into as many people's viewfinders as possible to help spread the word, spread the gospel of the Kaiju Lounge. Welcome to the Kaiju Lounge. I'm your boss, Monster Noah Waterman, and I want to talk a little bit about the PSVR. That is right, Sony PlayStation this past Wednesday recently had a slew of announcements talking about the new PlayStation VR 2. That's the sequel to the I don't know how well it was adopted, really, original PlayStation VR, but people are excited, and we got a release date, February 22nd, 2023. We got a bunch of game announcements, and we got a price tag, $550. I'm averaging $549.99. You get the idea. This thing is too damn expensive. I'm not going to say it's too expensive based on the specs, based on what it can do, but it is, for all intents and purposes, too damn expensive. All right, think of it this way. In the US, the digital version of the PlayStation is $400. The Blu-ray, the disc version of the PlayStation, is $500. This thing that needs one of those two things to run it is more expensive. That means for the entire VR setup you're going to get from this thing, you need to have dropped at least, I'm saying at least $1,000 on this whole thing. And people were just laughing about Meta and what they released with their, enterprise model VR helmet. It's getting ridiculous. We already recognize that gaming is an expensive hobby that is already gatekeeping a lot of people from being able to play it by virtue of price, but holy shit, $550? Are you kidding me? People have jobs, kids, other hobbies. It's too much. So the package itself includes a VR helmet, 2 Sense controllers, and the headphones. And that's what you're getting. I think there's an extra $50. You get a charging station for all that as well. I don't know how you would charge it without it. I'm sure they all plug in like through USB. There's also the extra edition that comes with Horizon Zero Dawn. That's also going to be an extra $50. So even for like some of the extra bits, they even have a game, right? So we're talking $1,000 to get started. Then you still got to buy a game. It didn't come packed in. Astro's Playroom is nowhere to be found. Sony did a great job giving us one of the best games for the PlayStation 5 for a very long time until I think Ratchet & Clank came out, was Astro's Playroom, a free pack-in game. You don't get it with this thing for some reason. And get this, it doesn't work with any original PSVR games, meaning backwards compatibility out the freaking window. So if you did give into this ecosystem, if you did be putting in all this time, those old games don't even work with this thing. So a lot of the ports you're gonna have to get, you have to rebuy. Like, this is a niche market. Arguably, it's a little too niche, and that's kind of the problem, right? Because this is the VR ecosystem right now. There's not that many VR games. There's some great ones out there, and the experience is awesome. Don't get me wrong, I am all for VR to an extent, but I don't know, I can count on one hand how many first-person shooters I have now that I play. Do I need a system that primarily plays first-person shooters? This thing is impressive. It's wholly impressive, but it's not $550 impressive. Not when I can go ahead and get something like the Oculus, not be tied to my computer, and still have a ton of games at my disposal. It's just, if I am going to get into VR, I don't think paying for the PSVR is going to be the thing that gets me in it. I think Udon agrees with me. I mean, you also got to keep in mind, this is coming shortly after Sony has raised up the price of their system not too long ago. And then there's all these reports now that PS Plus has taken a huge nosedive. So it's starting to feel a little bit like PlayStation's hard up for cash. Now, I don't think these things are related. I think there's so many other business decisions. I'm not even going to pretend like I know what goes into that. But things are not going Sony's way right now. And to go whole hog on VR with something like this is where we balk a little bit, because I feel like we need to make things like VR more accessible. Sell it at a loss, similar to how the Xbox is sold at a loss and then the other peripherals are sold at a higher price point. I think I recognize this is technically peripheral, and that's why they're probably doing it this way, but the problem is VR is not there yet. And it needs, if this is the future, it needs to get itself imposed in the mainstream audience. Like think about Meta right now. Meta's stock price has been going down as they've been throwing money into their VR ecosystem. And there are reports that the metaverse they've created so far is a fucking ghost town. I'm barely on Facebook. I know my mom is. Guess what? My mom's not buying a PSVR. And let's call a spade. Meta also recently raised the price of the Meta Quest 2 not too long ago, but that's still hanging at right at $500 for a system that is the system, the whole thing. Imagine you having to buy the Game Boy and not being able to run it without the Super Nintendo. The fact that I need the PlayStation is already impossible to find. Let's be honest, this is probably going to be impossible to find too. Sony, have you made enough of these yet? People are starting to get them, but it's taking a hot minute. The Meta, $500, you can plug in your computer for the stronger games, but otherwise you can take that on the go, bring that to your living room. What am I gonna do? It here in my office? I'm gonna take up space in my living room and bump in all my expensive shit? I live in an apartment. I'm not gonna pay $550 for something I'll probably use 3 times and then show off when people come over. Let's also keep in mind, this is a closed ecosystem. It's launching with 11 games that we know of, but it's not backwards compatible. Things like Meta, things like Steam's VR headset, these are a little more open system. This PlayStation VR is locked in the PlayStation 5 ecosystem and it's wired. I mean, you can't take that to a separate room. If your PlayStation's in the living room, your VR helmet's in the living room. And if someone's playing VR in the living room, you've basically lost that living room for a night. I don't know. There's a lot of good here, right? I don't want to be so negative as to say that there is nothing good about the PlayStation VR, because it is an incredibly impressive sounding machine. I truly can't say I'm mad about the price tag. I'm just disappointed. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel. That's a great way of telling me that you like what I'm doing, and it's free, absolutely no cost to you. Until next time, stay cool, stay hip, stay heavy.